Alright, what is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Very Cold Lasagna, the podcast that has a safe and open listening platform for casual, cold, and even the dumbest takes from the world of WWE, AEW, the NFL, and the wide world of pro wrestling and sports in general. I'm your host, DylanLasagna. Welcome to today's episode number 46 of this freezing cold podcast. And today, we got another good show for you all because week 2 of the NFL season is all wrapped up. We're going into week 3, but first, we have week 2 to talk about. A lot of stuff went down in this second week of the biggest season yet, pal, of the 2021 NFL season. And I gotta say, InjuryMania has ran wild, brother. It really has ran wild. All over, not just the 49ers, but the NFL. And it's a little crazy to see. It's only week 2 and there's already a shit ton of injuries all over the league. It's kind of sad to say, but we're going to be going over everything that happened in week 2, all the games that happened. There were a lot of interesting games. Usually when we talk about week 2, or whatever, it's me or other sports analysts that are on ESPN or FS1 or other podcasters, or even in a general conversation with your friends, your family, or whatnot. Week 2 is usually the time where people or teams, athletes, are trying to figure out how can we get better from week 1, or if we lost week 1, whether it's in a close game or in a blowout, how can we bounce back? How can we adjust, make improvements to get better in the next week? We were looking to see how each team would improve or adjust, or both, in this second week of the 2021 NFL season. So we're going to be talking about week 2 of this NFL season, some winners and losers, players of the week, and we're going to be taking a look ahead to week 3, which is going down very, very soon, and our picks for this coming week 3. But as always, make sure, if you like what you see here, gotta plug the social media, like we always gotta do to start Very Cold Lasagna. Make sure if you like what you see here, whether you're watching the podcast or listening to the podcast, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on that notification bell, and listen to the show on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. However you can to support Very Cold Lasagna, and follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna. So let's get into our topic of the day for this recap episode of Very Cold Lasagna. In general, for the NFL, week 2 of the 2021 NFL season. Like I said just moments ago, usually it's the time where everyone in the NFL, whether it's a team or an athlete, is trying to figure out how can they get better. Whether they won or lost the game, how can they make adjustments? How can they make improvements? How can they build upon week 1? Well, we got our answer through a whole load of games this past week. We start off with the Thursday night game between the New York Giants traveling to the nation's capital to take on the Washington football team. Normally, we'd bash on an NFC East clash like the Giants and the football team, but this honestly was actually a pretty entertaining game. This was like all out, all craziness. Like these two teams normally would suck against one another, but they were honestly wilding it out. So this was honestly a really good game from Washington quarterback Taylor Heinicke. He would make really good throws against a pretty bad Giants defense, and he moved the ball well. He moved the team pretty well downfield, and he made this really good throw to Ricky Seals-Jones for a touchdown in just 17 seconds. He led a 17-second drive in the fourth quarter. That is pretty insane. So the Washington football team nearly lost this game. They nearly lost this game on a missed field goal, but the Giants, someone moved offside, and they were given a gift. The football team was given a gift because the Giants, one of their players by the name of Dexter Lawrence, he moved offside. I don't know what he was trying to accomplish by moving offside or trying to get an early block, But that was just the theme of this game for the Giants. Mistake after mistake. And that was not coming from Daniel Jones, their quarterback. This was from the Giants. So the football team makes the second attempt at a field goal, and they win this crazy-ass game. So we get to the early Sunday morning slate of games. The New England Patriots go to New York to take on the Jets, and they pretty much blast their ass all the way to Denver for the next game, 25-6. Zach Wilson had a pretty shitty day, throwing 4 interceptions, 2 of which on his first 2 passes. We'll get into Zach Wilson when we talk about the winners and losers because, well, we already know which category Zach Wilson is going to be in. Meanwhile, for Mac Jones, in just his second game, he honestly didn't need to do too much because, well, Zach Wilson was stinking up the joint, and the Patriots defense was shutting him down. So Mac Jones really didn't need to do much. He took care of the football. James White, the running back, and that Patriots defense pretty much were doing a lot of the work for a big Bill Belichick's team. So the Patriots cruised to an easy victory there. The Denver Broncos went to AEW land to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they beat them 23-13. Teddy Bridgewater had another solid day, spreading the ball around, despite not having Jerry Jeudy. Tim Patrick had a good day. Cortland Sutton had a good day. That Denver defense eventually settled down. They gave up an early touchdown to Trevor Lawrence, but they got settled in, pretty much shut down the non-existent receiving core of Jacksonville. And this was just another game for Trevor Lawrence. And once again, while he flashed that star potential, he still plays behind a pretty shitty offensive line, and there's just no help around the receivers. There's no help in terms of the running game. There's not a lot of help around the first overall pick for this year. So meanwhile, down in Miami, the Miami Dolphins, oh man, InjuryMania ran wild in Miami. So quarterback Tua Tagovailoa exited this game early with bruised ribs, and it turned out to be fractured ribs. Now, we'll get into that in a little bit more. So backup Jacoby Brissett had to finish this game. He couldn't pretty much move the Dolphins downfield, and even if they did, they couldn't finish drives. They couldn't score any points. On their way to being shut out by the Buffalo Bills, 35-0. So all I can say is, I guess the Dolphins are a little glad that Tua's injury, even though it's fractured ribs, yes, that pretty hurts a lot. But I guess it's not like a serious injury where he could be out for the season or out for 2 months. So for right now, he's out for the Week 3 game against the Raiders, and then they don't know if he's going to be available for Week 4. So we'll find out when the time comes. So the Bills defeat the Dolphins in a shutout, 35-0. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, the San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles were pretty much in a defensive battle. Surprisingly, it was pretty much an all-out defensive juggernaut battle between these two teams. But the 49ers made the biggest plays when it mattered most as they went on to beat the Eagles 17-11. The LA Rams went to Indianapolis to beat the Colts. The Colts lost to yet another NFC West foe, 24-27. The LA Rams 2-0 to start the season. The Las Vegas Raiders went to Pittsburgh and color me shocked. They actually beat the Steelers 26-17. Wow. They followed up their overtime win against the Baltimore Ravens at home, and they went to Pittsburgh and actually beat the Steelers. Derek Carr had an efficient day. He had a really strong game. He lit up that Steelers defense, or probably I'd say lack thereof, because that Steelers defense was getting burnt. They were getting burnt to a crisp. All of his receivers, like Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, and Henry Ruggs, I think is his name. Yeah. They were getting open, and they were making really good plays to evade the defense. Everyone did their part to move the sticks. So that is insane. This was a big win. 2 big wins already for the Vegas Raiders. You might as well say that maybe this might not be the Raiders of the last 2 years, where they start off strong and then they crash down to earth in the second half of the season. I don't know. We'll find out soon enough. So then we have the Chicago Bears going to Cincinnati. Not to Cincinnati. They're hosting Cincinnati. They beat the Bengals 20-17. So yeah, they couldn't oh no. The Bengals. Oh, we can't blow out the Bengals. We can't hold them like down to 3 points. No, we gotta let them get back in this game. We gotta make them as loud as these crackling noises on my mic stand here. So anyway, the Bears QB Andy Dalton left this game with a bruised knee injury midway through. So Justin Fields, it's Fields' time. It's the field of dreams in Chicago. He finally takes the reins of the offense. Now, sure, they were pretty much still the dink and dunk plays from dumb shit Matt Nagy. At least there were some flashes of potential that Justin Fields can throw the ball downfield. It's not all like 10 or 5 yard dinks and dunks. He can at least throw the ball more than 10 yards. And at least he has that athletic ability that Andy Dalton just doesn't have to mix in between those passing plays. So Justin Fields overall had a solid day in relief, but he's going to need more than just a solid day because guess what? He's going to be the starter against the Browns and maybe going forward. So that's going to be interesting. Meanwhile, for the Bengals, ooh, man, I think we might have to start having some concerns about Cincinnati because Joe Burrow made some really questionable throws for much of this game. He threw 3 straight interceptions, including a pick 6 to Roquan Smith. Like, he threw a pick 6 to Roquan Smith on a interception that pretty much was blatantly given to Smith. It's like, where was Burrow throwing that to? And I don't know. Fans can blame the offensive line or lack thereof or Zach Taylor's play calling. But again, it's a revolving circle. You can put as much blame on others. But Joe Burrow has his own share of blame for how he plays as the quarterback. So the Cleveland Browns beat the Houston Texans 31-21. Surprisingly, this was not a blowout as much expected because the Texans with Tyrod Taylor are actually doing pretty decent. They were actually in this game for the most part. That was until Tyrod Taylor injured his hamstring on a touchdown run in the second quarter. So David Mills, the rookie from Stanford, had to finish this game. And he didn't inspire much confidence. So the Browns could have ran away with this game. But the problem was they couldn't finish drives. But in the end, it didn't matter for the Browns. Nick Chubb finished off the Texans with a game-sealing touchdown. Browns win 31-21. But in the biggest upset, the biggest surprise of the day, the Panthers. The Panthers beat the New Orleans Saints 26-7. So literally just a week after the Saints blew out the Packers in the biggest upset of week 1, they are involved in the wrong way. The biggest upset of week 2. The Saints get blown out. They get marched out of Carolina 7-26. Like, insane. Like, Sam Darnold had a good day, mostly taking care of the football, and he took big risks for big rewards, throwing it into tight windows, and really, like, took a big risk and got lucky that the receivers caught it in those tight windows. Meanwhile, for Saints quarterback Jameis Winston, he pretty much went back to those Tampa days of being famous Jameis, throwing interception, making bad throws, making forced errors. Yeah, that Jameis Winston. So then we get to the afternoon slate. The Arizona Cardinals beat the Minnesota Vikings in a wild shootout, 34-33. The Vikings honestly could have won this game. All they had to do, though, was make a field goal. But they didn't. And you can thank Greg Joseph for that. History literally went to bite the Vikings in the ass once again. Like, I guess they're really allergic to making game-winning field goals. So the Cardinals hold on to win this game. Kyler Murray is looking to establish his early MVP case. He had a really, really good game for this game. And fantasy owners probably are happy right now. So then the Tampa Bay Bucks blew out the Falcons. They sealed the deal over the Falcons 45-28. Tom Brady, 5 touchdowns. Oh my God. This dude, once again, is proving once again, it's like, what's fodder time? What is fodder time? I don't know what that is. That's just like, I have kids or something. So he threw for 5 touchdowns, and everyone, including Mike Evans, got involved in the passing game. So that was good to see for this Tampa offense. The Falcons actually got back in this game. They made it a 3-score game late in the fourth quarter, but unfortunately, Matt Ryan threw 2 pick sixes to the same Bucs defender, and that pretty much any and all chance at a comeback. So down in Seattle, the Tennessee Titans beat the Seahawks 33-30 in overtime. The Titans were actually down 24-9 at one point in this game, but on the heels of Derrick Henry, they stormed back in this game to tie this game 30-all at overtime. So, yeah, the Seahawks literally had a chance to win this game multiple times, but they couldn't seal the deal. Especially near the end, they nearly lost this game in overtime when Russell Wilson, like in his offensive line, his O-line imploded again, and the Titans defense, whoever was trying to sack him, they actually had him sacked in the end zone. Like it was a full sack, but Russell Wilson threw the ball away to absolutely no one, and they didn't rule that intentional grounding, which should have been ruled intentional grounding in the end zone for a safety. That should have been a safety, and the Titans should have won it here and there. But I mean, nonetheless, the Titans did win on a field goal to give Seattle a home loss, but still, that should have been the game ender right there. But it is what it is. So, down in LA, in the LA Clippers, Chargers home opener. But then again, it felt like the Dallas Cowboys home opener. The Cowboys beat the LA Chargers 20-17 in pretty much the AT&T Stadium West. Pretty much, yeah, there were a bunch of Cowboy fans in SoFi Stadium for the Chargers home opener. Literally. Like, when you were watching this game in week 2, Justin Herbert literally had to do a silent count in his own stadium. Like, dude, that is insane. So, as for this game, like, there were so many opportunities for the Chargers to win this game, but they were just making way too many mistakes when they were in the red zone. They could have had a touchdown, like, so many times, but they were called back by a holding call, or they made an ineligible receiver, or an illegal motion. And then there was this really bad, like, red zone drive that saw Justin Herbert backpedaling for whatever reason, and he took a bad sack. Like, he backpedaled. He should have, like, threw the ball away right then and there, but instead he backpedals like 20 yards, and he then throws the ball away, not past the line of scrimmage. Like, that's not going to win you games, dude. That's not going to win you games. So anyway, Greg Zuerlein wins this game. He kind of redeems himself from last week's game where he was just missing extra points and field goals everywhere. So he wins the game for the Cowboys. Cowboys win 20-17. So then in the Sunday night game, the Baltimore Ravens beat the Kansas City Chiefs 36-35. Baltimore bounced back from a heartbreaking Monday night loss to the Raiders with a big-time, nut-busting comeback win over the AFC champs. Lamar Jackson overcame his kryptonite in Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, as well as a slow first half with a super aggressive yet patient performance, capped off with a really, really gutsy yet great call to go for it on fourth down with a minute left in the game to seal the game. Yeah. John Harbaugh literally asked Lamar Jackson say, "You want to go for this? Are you serious? We can punt the ball away." Lamar Jackson's like, "I'm going for this. We are going to seal this." And they went for it, and they got it. That is what you call nut busting glory. That is nut busting glory. That's crazy. Now, as for the Chiefs, Mahomes did what he could. The offense did what they could. But the problem was the Chiefs' run defense and the Chiefs' defense overall. The Chiefs' run defense gave up so many yardage to Lamar Jackson. That's not good. That is really not good. They let him get back in this game. So if that portion of that defense, especially the run defense, can't tighten down, they're going to get beat on the ground more so than the air. Maybe even the air too. But it's not looking good. Not looking good. Then in the final game of week 2 on Monday night, the Green Bay Packers bounced back from a very, very bad loss to the New Orleans Saints with a feel good victory over the Detroit Lions, 35-17. Dan Campbell's Lions were the ones that got their knees calved by the time this one was over, as they were outclassed and shut out by Aaron Rodgers in the second half, 21-0, thanks to some costly mistakes by Jared Goff. So, yeah, that was your week 2 of the NFL. A lot of crazy games, a lot of not as much weird stuff that happened as in week 1, but still, like I said before, week 1 is pretty much either, these teams are improving, or these teams are trying to bounce back and also improving. So now let's take a look at some of the winners and losers of week 2. And we start with Washington quarterback Taylor Heinicke. Now you're probably wondering, are you crazy? Are you a filthy casual for calling Taylor Heinicke a winner for week 2? And, well, yeah, I am. I'm always crazy. Duh. This is why this is called Very Cold Lasagna. This is a show for filthy casuals. Hello. So anyway, yeah, I am calling Washington football quarterback Taylor Heinicke a winner. And here's why. This was his 3rd overall start. And even though it was a shit Giants team, he performed damn good. He did good in this game. Now, aside from a questionable call to pass it right before the 2-minute warning, which was not a very good play call to begin with, other than that, he showed accuracy. He showed precision. He made smart decisions with the football. And his offensive line honestly did pretty well to protect him. A prime example of this was when they did that 2-minute, not that 2-minute drive, that 17-second drive in the 4th quarter. I always keep mentioning this because it's the best example. They had that 17-second drive, and it only lasted 2 plays, where they literally marched down the field, and he lobbed it beautifully to Ricky Seals-Jones in a very, very tight section of the end zone. That is insane. That is very, very good stuff. Now, obviously, Heinicke is going to have tougher competition going for him because he faces the Bills, the Saints. I think he faces the Saints, or is either the Saints or the Bucs. I don't know. The Chiefs, the Packers. There's going to be much tougher competition for Heinicke. But if he can do consistently better, even in defeat, Ron Rivera might just have to consider making him the full-time starter, even if Ryan Fitzpatrick comes back from injury. The Carolina Panthers. This defense sacked Jameis Winston countless times, forced him to make a lot of errors, including 2 interceptions. They went lights out on a Saints team that blew out a playoff contender in the Packers. Yeah, they made the Saints very pedestrian in week 2. Also, kudos to the offense. Sam Darnold had a good game. He's continuing to settle into this offense. The offensive line also did a really good job protecting Darnold, aside from a couple of sacks on the QB against a usually stout Saints front 4. But nonetheless, they did a very good job in this game. Now, can they keep it up going forward? We'll see. I mean, they're not facing much more quality competition in the next couple of games, but this is a good opportunity to tighten some things up. But for now, they got a very big win against the Saints. The Ravens, Lamar Jackson, head coach Jar Harbaugh, and pretty much everyone on that team. It seemed like going into the fourth quarter, it seemed like this game was all over. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs were going to make Lamar Jackson and the Ravens their bitch once again. It's like, oh, we're dominating you once again. We're up 2 touchdowns. Ha ha ha. Fuck you. But then all of a sudden, the Chiefs gave up the following: a shit ton of running plays from Lamar Jackson and several dink and dunk yards after the catch plays from the Ravens. So right then and there, it all of a sudden became a 1-point lead for the Ravens. So the Ravens never gave up. They never quit. They had that John Cena mentality, pal, of hustle, loyalty, respect. Never give up, pal. So they willed their way back into this game because they had something to prove. They were getting their ass whooped by the Chiefs ever since Lamar Jackson got into this league. This whole Mahomes-Jackson rivalry started. So Lamar Jackson wanted to prove something, and they wanted to bounce back from this bad loss to the Raiders on the road. And coming off this heartbreaker, they got it done. This is a really good bounce back win for the Ravens. Now for the losers of week 2, the New York Giants, obviously. The New York Giants. Just like with the LA Chargers, like we're going to get into in a second, they had opportunities to blow this game open against Washington. But they were making so many mistakes, like a lot, on last Thursday night. They had a big Daniel Jones run. That could have been a touchdown. They had a big throw to Darius Slayton. They had Dexter Lawrence not move off sides. They could have won this game. But the Daniel Jones big run in the second quarter, negated by a holding call. Darius Slayton had butterfingers. He ate too much butterfinger because he was like, never lay a finger on my butterfinger. So he ate too much of that and he had butterfingers. And Dexter Lawrence, I don't know what you were doing. Were you trying to block that field goal? Because I think you got too anxious there. But it happens. It happens. So the Giants pretty much shot themselves in the foot. Once again, making all these mistakes. And I'm just wondering, how stupid can they be? And this game was literally not all Daniel Jones' fault. It literally wasn't. It was literally the case of the Giants being overall stupid. They were literally making mistake after mistake. They were getting a lot of penalties in this game. So, they are losers this week. The New Orleans Saints, holy shit. How did they go from blowing out a playoff team to being blown out themselves by a division also-ran from last year? God damn. I've already talked so much about Jameis Winston being typical Jameis Winston. Holding the ball for too long and taking those sacks and making all those forced errors, all those forced throws that lead to interceptions. But goddamn, that defense couldn't do anything. That secondary couldn't do anything. That front four, aside from 2 sacks, they couldn't do anything. I know, it's one bad game. It's only week 2, but they got to be careful. The Saints got to be careful. They face the Patriots next. They face even though shitty Giants team, but you never know. It's the NFL. So they have to not take this for granted, this game for granted, because this could be concerning. The LA Chargers, just like with the Giants, multiple opportunities to have touchdowns, but penalties, mistakes, killed them. It literally killed them. It was just so many errors after errors. Justin Herbert taking that unnecessary backpedaling sack, unneeded. And when they were in the red zone, in the second quarter, he threw a blatant interception to the Cowboys. Don't force the issue. The rest of the team didn't help matters either, because they negated a bunch of touchdowns that could have given the Chargers a big win. But instead, the Cowboys are on the under end of winning this game. So, yeah, the Chargers we're typical Chargers. And last but not least, Zach Wilson. Now, I get it. One game shouldn't define a rookie quarterback as a bust. I get it. But, damn, what in the world was Zach Wilson doing in that game against the Patriots? Like, what was he doing? It's one thing that a team like the Jets, who doesn't have support around their big guy, aka their supposed franchise quarterback. But when the quarterback begins to force things, like they begin to force the issue in games, it starts to become a problem. It really does, because it only if you like try to force the issue, like, oh, you don't want to take a sack, but you also want to throw the ball to the opposition, or try to throw it to like your receivers and hope that they make the catch. You're just making things worse. You're literally making things worse. Case in point, Zach Wilson's 4 interceptions against the Patriots, 2 of which were thrown too high for his receivers, and 2 of which were blatantly and obviously thrown to the wrong team. And I get it. He will have better games. But he shouldn't be tasking himself to do so much. He really shouldn't. Now, it would be wise for the Jets to find some help for Wilson. But for now, Zach, don't put so much pressure on yourself to perform. This is like an evaluation year for yourself. The Jets aren't going anywhere this year. So take this rookie year to find your footing. Take this year to find your footing, man. So now another big loser, and this has nothing to do with any team or any player. It's just an issue. The injuries. InjuryMania ran wild in week 2, and it's only week 2, man, and there's already a bunch of injuries. It's like this is going to be a common theme for the rest of the league. It's going to be so sad, because it's kind of like, what was it, 2017 or 2018, where we had those like exodus of injuries, and it was so bad. like I don't want that to be a repeat. And this is a much longer season than 2017 and 2018 were. You had Tyrod Taylor go down. You had Carson Wentz go down. 3 of the 49ers running backs went down. Andy Dalton also went down. TJ Watt didn't even play week 2. Jarvis Landry went down. The Eagles, Brandon Graham and Brandon Brooks, they also went down. Now, granted, most of these injuries are either day-to-day or week-to-week, but a few of them are short-term or long-term injury reserve, including that injury reserve, Brandon Graham. His is season-ending, which is unfortunate. It's really unfortunate for these players to get injured this early in the season. Like, you don't know, like, how long they're going to be able to play this game, or if they're going to be able to play this game. So I hope that these players will be able to recover, get back on the field to play. It's just always rough to see players go down with an injury this early in the season. And it's just especially rough when there's just a big number of them in 1 week. And again, this early. Now, let's hand out some game balls, award some players of the week. Give it to Kyler Murray for his 4 touchdowns and his big overall performance against the Minnesota Vikings. Lamar Jackson for his comeback performance against the Kansas City Chiefs. Derrick Henry on the heels of leading his team to a victory over the Seattle Seahawks. Mike Evans for his bounce-back performance against the Atlanta Falcons, and him getting back, like, I guess in a kind of like a chemistry fold with Tom Brady. And the Panthers and Bills defense, like, they had pretty much a shutdown performance on the Dolphins and the Saints respectively. Now, let's take a look ahead to week 3. That's ahead. And, when it comes to week 3, it's a little bit tougher to say how these teams are. They're either 0-2, 1-1, or 2-0. So I guess this is pretty much like week 2, where you're trying to figure out where exactly you're going to be going into the quarterway point of the season. You're trying to figure out, like, how can we get better? How can we get even better if you're 2-0 or 1-1? Or what's one thing that we can get good at, or what's one thing that we can adjust for the next couple of weeks? That remains to be seen. But this is the kind of week where it's kind of like this is kind of like our kind of like, I don't know what the best terminology to describe it is, but it's kind of like a early do or die kind of thing. Because if you start 0-3, then it's probably like, okay, our season is probably not going to be the way we hoped for, or something like that. So we start off with Thursday night football. It's probably not going to be like the other two Thursday night games, and that's kind of a bummer. we had a 2-0 streak of good Thursday night football games, and it's going to come to an end, sadly. We have the Carolina Panthers going up to Houston to take on the Texans in this is actually our first of the new scheduling, our new schedule. Like, there's another interconference game, like the AFC versus NFC. So it's kind of like a new thing that they're doing. That's why we had the additional 17th game. So this is the first one. So the Panthers take on the Texans. Again, it's not the most exciting Thursday night game because, well, rookie quarterback David Mills is starting, and we don't know how the Texans are going to perform with him under center, and it's going to be a very short turnaround for Mr. Mills. So I'm going to go with the Panthers on this one. They're probably going to have a good follow-up performance against a rebuilding Texans team. So going into Sunday with the early morning games, the Indianapolis Colts travel to Tennessee to take on the Titans. The Titans are coming off a big overtime win against the Seahawks in Seattle. And they're going to be facing a Colts team that doesn't know if they're going to have Carson Wentz or Jacob Eason under center. But nonetheless, I expect Derrick Henry and this Titans offense to be ready to feast on a Colts team that's pretty much limping into these first 2 weeks. So, New York Giants, 0-2, are going to be taking on the Atlanta Falcons, who are also 0-2. So, both of these teams are looking for that first win. And one of those teams are going to get it here. The problem is, neither team has sparked any hope of optimism. That's kind of the problem here. Especially the Falcons, man. They've been blown out in their first 2 games. They've been outscored, like, badly. I do think, however, like, because the Giants are very prone to mistakes, this will be their get-right game. The Falcons will be getting it right, bouncing back, hopefully, considering they don't choke. They will get right. They will get their first win of the season, and it will be Arthur Smith's first win as an NFL head coach. And in a very big matchup in Week 3, this is a very big one. The LA Chargers travel to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. It's a very early yet critical divisional game between AFC West foes who are in need. Both of them are in need to bounce back from crushing losses. It's going to be a battle between Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes. But look for the Chiefs to outlast the Chargers because they have talent, and they also are pretty pissed off. They are pretty pissed off that they lost to the Ravens. So the Cincinnati Bengals travel to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers in another divisional rivalry clash. The Steelers are also probably pissed that they underperformed against the Raiders at home. So look for them to take out some frustration against a mid-Bengals team. So I'm going with the Steelers on this division clash. The Chicago Bears, now starting Justin Fields, travel to Cleveland to take on the Browns. Justin Fields is starting this game, but I don't know. I just hope Matt Nagy doesn't find some way to fuck this up. Like, you know, all he has to do is unleash Justin Fields to his potential, man. Isn't that hard? Is it really that hard? Anyway, the Browns, I think they will edge the Bears in a close one because, well, the Browns haven't inspired much confidence when it comes to closing out these games, but we'll see. The Baltimore Ravens follow up their Sunday night win over the Kansas City Chiefs. They go to the Motor City to take on the Lions. The Ravens should pick apart this Lions team. The Lions are still they're grit and grind these last few. They're more so than the last few years. They're still finding their footing. So I expect this Ravens team to pick apart the Lions. The New Orleans Saints travel to New England to take on the Patriots in a very critical AFC versus NFC matchup. This is kind of a proof something game for both these teams' quarterbacks. For Mac Jones, it's whether or not he can thread the needle for when the Patriots are either up or down. They're trailing or they're leading this game. Like, can he close the gap? For Jameis Winston, he has to bounce back from his typical famous Jameis performance last week. But I expect the Patriots to win what should be a very interesting game in this early time slot. So up next, we have the Arizona Cardinals going up to AEW land to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars, still looking for their first win of the season. Now, for this matchup, we have two young QBs and 2 first overall picks. On paper, it should be a fun matchup. Again, on paper. Sadly, though, Kyler Murray and the Cardinals are pretty much going to run all over Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars in AEW land, so I'm going with the Cardinals in this matchup. So, to close out our early morning slate for this Sunday, the Washington football team goes up to Buffalo, New York to take on the Bills. This will be a big test for Taylor Heineke as the starter for Washington on the road against a potential Super Bowl favorite in the Buffalo Bills. Chase Young and that Washington defense is also going to have a big test against Josh Allen and that Buffalo offense. So they're going to have a tough task in trying to limit him. But look for the Bills to win this one. So in the afternoon, this afternoon slate of games, the New York Jets traveled to the mile-high city of Denver to take on the Broncos. The Denver defense might have some fun with this Jets team. The rookie quarterback, Zach Wilson, the Jets City offensive line, that might be a recipe of fun for this Denver team having its home opener. I'm going to take the Denver Broncos on this one, but obviously they're going to have to do their part in not falling asleep on the wheel on offense-wise. So the Las Vegas Raiders go back home in the Sin City to take on the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins head back to Las Vegas, but as we know now that Tua Tagovailoa will not be starting for the Dolphins. It'll be Jacoby Brissett that will be under center, and man, that's going to be a big downgrade for the rest of the offense. So either way, the Raiders are probably going to pounce all over the Dolphins. They're going to build upon their 2 wins over the Ravens and the Steelers, and I'm going with the Raiders on this one. The Minnesota Vikings have their home opener against the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, the Vikings lost to the Arizona Cardinals, but I mean, I guess their offensive performance in their eyes was, I guess, encouraging. Like Kirk Cousins wasn't all Charlie checked down in week 2, but they're going to need that kind of performance that they had against the Cardinals against Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks. Oof. So it's going to be a we'll see approach with this game, but I'm going with the Seahawks on this. And in the big matchup of the afternoon slate on Sunday, the Tampa Bay Bucks are going to face the LA Rams in Los Angeles. This is an early preview of what could we possibly expect in the playoffs in January. There's a lot of talented players on both sides of the ball, but I think the Tampa Bay Bucks will barely escape Hollywood with a big victory over the Rams. Now we close out the Sunday slate with Sunday Night Football action. The Green Bay Packers take on my San Francisco 49ers in the Bay Area home opener. Finally, after 2 weeks of the Niners being on the road, they finally get to open up Levi Stadium to a packed house in Santa Clara. This is a rematch that has happened many times in the last 3 years, and it goes down again in the brightest lights of Sunday night. So the 49ers pulled out a grit and grind victory over the Philadelphia Eagles. The Packers bounced back from their terrible loss to the Saints and having a shutout second half victory over the Detroit Lions on Monday night. We'll see which team proves they're the real deal this Sunday night. But I'm rolling with the 49ers because, well, they got that defense that could shut down Aaron Rodgers at any point in time, but it's a wait-and-see approach. So Monday Night Football, we have the Philadelphia Eagles traveling to Jerry's World to take on the Dallas Cowboys in what should be a interesting divisional clash. Now, again, like with the New York Giants and the Washington Football Team, like this is probably going to be rubbed off as it's just the NFC East. But honestly, I think the worst division in football can go, that honor can go to the NFC South, because at least with the NFC East, I think, with the exception of the New York Giants, I think the Eagles, the Cowboys, and Washington, at least they have an interesting case to win the division. And this is a case in point here between the Eagles and the Cowboys. Probably another addition to their rivalry. Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts might have gotten a little bit exposed against the 49ers against a better defense. But we'll see which Jalen Hurts shows out on Monday night. Whether or not that offense can bounce back from a pretty quiet performance in week 2 against the 49ers. We will see. As for the Cowboys, they're going to be looking to build on their performance from week 2 as they open up to a fully packed AT&T Stadium. I think that they're just going to have more than enough, because they have more firepower with Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Zeke Elliott, and now Tony Pollard. They have more firepower than the Eagles to get this win on Monday night. So those are my picks for week 3. That was my recap for week 2. What do you all think? Whether you're listening to this on the audio side of things or watching my beautiful face or whatever face here on YouTube, let me know how you feel. Whether it's a comment or a review, a direct message. Let me know how you all feel about week 2 and the upcoming week 3, however you can. But that is it for this episode of Very Cold Lasagna. I am your host, DylanLasagna. Thank you for tuning into this fine episode, this Around the League recap of the NFL for week 2 and a preview of week 3 as well. So thank you for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, listen to the show on all major podcast platforms. Follow the show on social media, on Twitter and Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna. And as always, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of pro wrestling and sports, freezing cold with all your warm, cold, however it is, takes on each of these things. And until next time, peace out.